Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters here on France 24. In this edition, the stakes for Ivory Coast as the presidential election draws near. And concerns grow over the security of the state. Even the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, says that he's preoccupied by this situation. He's calling on all sides to bury their differences that have already led to clashes with 5 people killed in August. Caroline Dumais is our reporter who has been across Ivory Coast to really take the temperature of the country and the people at this moment. Caroline, what did you find?
Yes, absolutely. We went actually from the west, Diokwe, to the south, Grand Bassam. And what we actually found is, like, although it was very peaceful, I must say it was very peaceful, well, people were worried. I mean, there is some sort of anxiety towards the election, not because of the vote. You know, in Ivory Coast, they've been voting since the 60s, and even since the 90s with multiple party elections. But this time is a little bit special because, in fact, the candidates, the men, are actually the same than during the crisis, during the war. So people are a little bit worried that the conflict could start again, but they are peaceful and they are hopeful.
You've been across the country. Let's take a look now at your report. A report by Caroline Dumais and Stefan Carstens.
In western Ivory Coast, grim memories of the massacres committed during the 2010-11 post-electoral crisis remain fresh. A single headstone marks this mass grave. Everyone here lost someone, a father, a brother, a cousin. There was never any inquiry. Fighting between the pro-Ouattara rebels from the north and the Gbagbo-backing local population led to more than 1,000 deaths here. Today, young people living in this district refuse to vote.
Maybe people will vote in the rest of Diokwe, but for us, there's no point in building a polling station so that we can get involved in the election. We died for nothing. They have won. We're tired and we don't want to hear about it anymore. Let us alone.
Serge lost 38 family members in the fighting of 2011. As we spoke, a man listened attentively to what was said. Chedi has lived in Diokwe for 20 years and witnessed some of the horrors. Today, he owns a small shop in the center of town.
My shop was looted, completely looted, to the point where they stripped out the lights. I lost everything. The crisis made me lose lots of money, and we have never, ever received any compensation.
Chedi has since diversified, investing in plantations. The soil of this region is extremely fertile, and conflicts over the much-coveted land rights are common. Proving ownership is often very difficult. Chedi farms 3 hectares of cashew, 6 of cocoa, and 18 of rubber. It might sound like a lot, but the rewards are small. The market price of these goods has collapsed. He earns just €150 for a ton of rubber. Many farmers hope that the government will set higher farm gate prices after the election, but believe that agricultural issues have not taken centre stage during this campaign.
One side doesn't want to have elections, the other side wants to have elections. They don't talk about manifestos or what they could do for the peasants. It is more about how to do elections or how not to do them. That is the subject. We are left in uncertainty.
Ivory Coast is the world's leading cocoa producer, much of it coming from this region.
Unfortunately, cocoa producers don't know what chocolate tastes like. A farmer can die without ever having tasted it. It's sad.
There has been little talk about struggling farmers or the need for industrialization during this election period, but migrant labor has always been a political hot topic. A number of Burkinabe families living in this plantation village await election day with anxiety.
The elections need to be smooth. Both sides need to make peace. Whoever is president needs to look after us well, that's all. We came far away to live here. The politicians only have to get along in order for more people from Burkina Faso, Ghana, Mali, and Senegal to come to this country.
In Ivory Coast, communal violence, particularly when foreigners are involved, often boils down to struggles over land ownership. But this isn't always the case. Here in Biome, in the centre of the country, 2018's local elections were marked by violence. Mediation efforts were led by a local religious leader, Bamo Keita. He is one of the youngest imams in the country. He grew up as Islam was growing in popularity, becoming the most followed religion in what used to be a majority Christian country. In 2019, communal violence between the Baoulé and Djoula communities led to 17 deaths. A monument in front of the town hall commemorates the victims. The conflict resolution is still talked about today.
There were many meetings. The kings, the village chiefs, the canton chiefs, the imams, they all came to an agreement. We tried to discuss with each other for a month, 2 months. Truly, we tried to discuss. We said, why do we have this violence? For what cause? We didn't want it anymore in Biome. I believe that on that day, the king of Bouaké took a stick and gave it to the imam. He said, where we are from, if someone gives you that, it's to say that we don't want any more chaos. When the stick was given to the imam, we knew that he had done well.
Politicians need to change the way they speak. It's important for the people of Biome, both Baoulé and Djoula. They need to know that we stand together today. They need to know that whether we are Djoula, Malinké, or Baoulé, we're all the same. We're all Ivorians. The flag we have in Biome, orange, white, and green, it's the same as the one they hang in Korogo.
In towns like Biome, where there are as many Baoulé as there are Djoula, tensions are more likely to flare. The authorities do their best to avoid campaign meetings, and the imam is forced to work alone.
It's the young Baoulé who are there. They're making a living by doing carpentry. This is my house. We live together. There are no issues. This young Baoulé is my neighbor. What's your name? Again? Blaise. You see, we're all together here. And over here are the young Dioulas. They're getting on with things too. There's the chief. They're sewing clothes. That is how we feed ourselves, not by fighting.
The imam is calling for peaceful elections and for the living conditions in Biome to be improved.
We have problems. There are no roads. There's no electricity. The town isn't well lit. We need electricity. Biome hasn't benefited from the construction of roads. We need about 18 to 20 kilometers of tarmac. Anything linked to development is needed.
In the north of the country, people want the same. The further north you go, the worse the roads get. In Yamoussoukro, a number of roadworks have taken place ahead of the election.
I am the retired commander Simon Pierre Guefflon. I have been retired since the 31st of December. I live in Fondy in the sub-prefecture of Yamoussoukro. This is the little home I am making for my retirement. It is difficult. Approaching every election, there is uncertainty. We hope that things will go well to allow us to carry on with various projects. There have been radical speeches from the opposition and a rigid response from the government. It makes us a little concerned.
l'opposition radicale, le pouvoir rigide, vraiment, ça nous fait un peu peur.
In his spare time, the commander likes to visit a friend on the banks of the Bandama River. Barthélemy is also a former soldier. He has invested his leaving bonus in building a restaurant. The two men used to be on different sides. Now they're learning to live together.
The army is divided. When the army was united, us brothers in arms forgave each other. A soldier is always a soldier. Today, it's political manipulation. They're using soldiers as props to divide the army. All must be forgiven. It serves no purpose. If we keep looking to the past, we will never move forward.
Forgiveness, a message many are keen to push in Ivory Coast. In churches across the country, people have organised prayers in hope of peaceful elections. In this Methodist church in Yamoussoukro, funds have been collected to organise a peace procession.
People manipulate weak souls to make them believe that there is a North-South divide or a Christian-Muslim divide. But we don't have an issue living together. These are false constructs. The president is not a Christian, power comes from God. We have prayed for the president.
From Yamoussoukro, the political capital, to Abidjan, the economic capital, the road is smooth. A little further on, a new motorway leads to Grand Bassam. At the side of the road is a special tax-free zone known as Vitib, the village of biotechnology, computing and communication. Fatoumata set up shop there in 2015, building her television studio. The special status of the area allowed her business to grow.
We are exempted from customs tax and VAT. That relieves a bit of pressure on us because TV equipment is very expensive. It is very expensive to produce a program. We invest in renewing our equipment as there are always better gadgets. We are always up to date.
From communications companies to pharmaceutical industries, interest in moving to this 200-hectare site is growing all the time. It took several years to get it up and running, but today bidders are jostling to get involved. At the Vitib HQ, Pascal Pango, who has been involved in the project from the start, continues to dream.
We dream of having a technology park as a West African hub. We have the right to our Silicon Valley. I don't see why we can't have this kind of dream.
He believes that within 10 years, more than 40,000 people will be working at the site.
It stretches to the other side and goes into the lagoon. We're planning to put up 4 kilometers of fencing. I have a businessman's opinion. Our role is to attract investors and big projects. Obviously, we are impacted by political goings-on, but I remain optimistic.
The country's business community wants to get the elections out of the way.
Last year, everyone spoke about 2020. We did nothing. We were just saying it's going to be tense. Finally, we are in 2020. And what happened? Something we did not expect, COVID-19. We should never think that just because we had war that there will always be war. I want Ivorians to go and vote. Put a president in charge, whoever he will be, and then get back to work.
Ivory Coast has not had a peaceful transfer of power since 1995. Ivorians are hoping that this year, 2020, will prove to be an exception.
Our reporter Caroline Dumais is still with us. Caroline, thank you so much for that report. It was a real insight into what's happening in Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast right now. Your report started in Diokoué, a place that was badly affected by the post-election violence 2010-2011. How do we know how they're going to react this time? One's wondering what's going through the minds of the people there.
Well, we don't know because, you know, Diokoué is a very special place. They paid a high price during the war and nobody really knows how they're going to react. But there's one thing, is there was no reconciliation in Diokwe, it's quite obvious. You know, there was no investigation into war crimes, there was no justice, and there was also no compensation for the victims. So people have got all the rights to be bitter, really. But if you speak to them, well, they basically say they will not vote, they kind of are going to boycott, but they are not necessarily going into conflict. They don't want any war. They have lost too many people. Just listen to the leader of the Guéré community in Diokwe. He's also a member of the National Chamber of the Kings and the Traditional Leaders in Yamoussoukro.
We haven't turned the page, but I don't think we are ready to enter into another conflict. Because having seen many parents disappear and wanting to start over, it's like we ourselves don't want to exist. Because if you have bare hands and you go and attack people who are more armed than you, you're walking towards death. Towards death. You shouldn't provoke when you have a slingshot and the other person has a gun. Maybe everyone can walk and do what they want to do, but us, we prefer to be us. We don't copy. We don't get dragged along by people. Because the people who face the consequences are us, not them.
Caroline, in your report, one of the people that you spoke to was talking about the need to forgive everybody. Having heard the previous speaker just then, I'm wondering whether this is at all realistic.
Well, I'm asking the same question. You know, in the term forgiveness, you obviously understand that people need to know and they need to understand if they want to forgive, they want to turn the page, they must actually know the truth. And if you see some countries like South Africa, where there was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to forgive and to reconcile, well, they had to have the truth. They had to sit down all together and confess and give, you know, more details on the war crimes. And this is something that never happened in Ivory Coast. So until we know what happened during the civil war that lasted 10 years, well, I don't know how everybody is going to be able to forgive.
Caroline Dumais, thank you very much indeed. And of course, you can see Caroline's report again via our website, france24.com. This is Reporters on France 24. Stay with us. Most of all, do stay safe.